Any moms in the house? Let's give them a hand. Moms, we love you guys. We will celebrate you in just a little bit, but for now, we are going to jump back into this series that we've been in the middle of called Live It Well. And we've been talking about living life well and living for more than just a funeral. And we've kind of attacked that from multiple angles and multiple vantage points, but one of the overlying or underlying themes for this whole series has been the reality that to get to a place where we're living it well, there has to be some sort of behavior or action shift on our part that takes us to that place of living it well. And we're going to talk today about a very particular behavior or action that has huge ability to impact whether or not we're living it well. And in fact, I think as we work through this, we'll discover that it may be the behavior that can make our lives miserable quicker than anything else. That this one particular behavior has the ability to have some of the deepest and quickest impact on our lives, good or bad, than almost anything else. So today we're going to talk about words. We're going to talk about the power of our tongues. And if you remember, before this Live It Well series earlier in the year, we did a series called My Stupid Mouth or My Big Fat Mouth, something like that. And we talked a lot about this for a whole series. And we felt, though, as we were processing this Live It Well piece, that we need to bring this up again, because if you're anything like me, being reminded about this particular topic is never a bad thing. So we all know that words are really, really, really powerful because we've all experienced that moment where we said something, and right as we felt the words leaving our mouths, we just wish we could grab them and stuff them back in and have had them never come out in the first place. And you also probably know that feeling of somebody said something mean to you and it hurt you and they were like, I didn't mean it that way. And it's like, there's no other way you can mean that. So that's an irrelevant statement that you just made to me. And we all know the feeling of getting ourselves into embarrassing moments because of our words, or when you're sitting in a room and someone says something that just they shouldn't have said and the whole room gets really tense because of it, or everybody feels super uncomfortable for that person. If you look back probably at your life, or maybe even at like last night, some of the most intense fights you've had relationally were because of something you said or something that they said. And when those words came out of your mouth or their mouth, it was like a bomb went off in your relationship, or a bomb went off in the room. Words are really, really, really powerful. Words are so powerful, I could get up here on any given weekend, or Monty could do the same, and we could get up here and with just our words completely ruin not only our own reputation, but the reputation of this church. And the words wouldn't even have to be true, but we could get up here and completely destroy everything that Life Church has been building over the last 17 years with just our words. In fact, I know one word so powerful that I can say this one word, and my wife will immediately become infuriated with me. Just get furious with just one word. In fact, I think that probably every woman in this room, if I said this one word, it would tense you up a little. You'd be a little bit frustrated with me just for saying this one word. And you know what, guys? I'll throw myself under the bus. I'll teach you this one word so that you never say this one word to your girlfriend or mom or wife or any female in general, especially if they're, feeling vulnerable or emotional or intense about something. You never want to say this word ever, 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 ever. So here it is. The one word that should never escape your lips, men, is chill. Listen, in my house, it's worse than calm down. Calm down is bad, but if I say chill, my head's gone, basically, is what's going to happen at that point. Chill. Just never say it. Remove it from your vocabulary. Unless you're saying like, hey, could you put that Dr. Pepper in the fridge to chill? That's okay. But don't say chill. It'll never end well. And there's individual words, just single words They carry so much weight and emotion and baggage along with them. Chill happens to be one of them, but like love is a really intense word that carries a lot of baggage. And when you hear just that one word, all kinds of different things and memories and emotions start going through your head. Some of them good, some of them bad, some happy, some sad. It's like you waited for that proposal from him and you hoped for the I will from her. And those words you said to each other, and then the I do's at your wedding, those words hopefully paved the way for this great, healthy, fulfilling marriage. But they may have also been the beginning of a lot of hurtful words that you regret. Words are really, really, really powerful. Love is a powerful word. Regret is a really powerful word. It's a word that makes you think about a lot of things you don't want to have to think about. Maybe it makes you think about words you've used that created pain, or that someone else has used that created pain for you, or the things you've said that have made you feel embarrassed and shamed. Regret is a really powerful word on its own. It even sounds bad, regret. Peace. Peace is a really powerful word, and it makes you feel the opposite, right? Regret feels like intense and kind of mean and heavy, and peace feels nice and light and airy and just kind of peaceful, you know? And it's like when you've said something, you say regret and it makes you feel bad and heavy, and you say peace, it makes you feel this kind of sense of relief. Words, like, they just carry weight. Our, founding fathers of our country understood how important words were. I mean, they guaranteed in the First Amendment the freedom of our speech. Our country was built upon the reality that words carry power, and people are responsible for wielding that power. Words are so powerful. We've got this group of words, and I don't know who decides on these words, but we've got these group of words, most of them are 4 letters long, that are bad words for some reason or another. They're bad words. You're not supposed to say them. They bleep them out on TV because, the kids aren't going to hear them at school and know what they are, so we should probably bleep them out on TV so they don't learn them. And if they're words, if I said one of those words from stage, Monty, who's out of town, he'd get an email like, "You're not going to believe what Grayson said." Like, he'd get like 50 of them, and I would never be allowed to talk up here again if I said one of those 4-letter words. I mean, words have ignited movements. I mean, even Jesus, the reason we're here today is this movement that Jesus started with his words, and that his words echo through the thousands of years to us today. Martin Luther King Jr., his words ignited movements, and his "I Have a Dream" speech is one of the most famous groupings of words ever spoken. Movements have been ignited because of words. Gandhi is only known because of his words. He's like the laziest famous person ever because he doesn't do anything. He just says things, Somebody's like offended, like, how dare you? It was a joke. You don't have to take it seriously. We could go on and on. The people whose words have reshaped history and paved the way for things moving forward. And when you think about your own life, your words are at the core of what makes you who you are and what has brought you to the places in life that you're at. In fact, if we kind of dissected your journey up until now, I would be willing to bet that your words are often responsible for your highest highs in life and your lowest lows. That when you look at your life, words are central to your highest highs and your lowest lows. Things like "I do." Hopefully that was a high, maybe it was a low, I don't know. "I love you." "I hate you." "I'm ashamed of you." "I forgive you." "I promise." "I'm sorry." Like, when you look at your life and the times you've been like, "I am living it well. Life is at a good spot right now." I would bet you that the words, not only of you, but of other people, are in the middle of all of that. Like, for me, my wife's "I do" at our wedding. My parents were proud of you. Previous bosses, like, "You're hired," or "You're doing a good job." Talk about living it well in those moments. And also in the darkest moments. I'm sure you can recall the words that you spoke that you wish you could erase. or the words spoken to you that still feel like a knife that's still wedged in your back. Our words directly impact our ability to live it well, whether we like it or not. And this is one of those like life principles that just is. Like, it's not something you can change. It's not something I guess you could be a mute forever, but good luck with that. It sounds like not a very lived well life. Our words directly impact our ability to live it well. And James is this author that we've been taking a look at throughout this series and breaking down the words of this letter that James wrote, that in the Bible we call it the book of James. And it was really this letter that James had written. And James is this incredibly interesting kind of historical figure and really interesting like Bible character. Because James, if you haven't been here and haven't heard us talk about this, James was the brother of Jesus. And he became this Jesus follower because he believed that Jesus had died and risen from the dead. And the reason that that's significant, and the reason I think James is one of the best cases for Christ or cases for the resurrection, is because what would you have to do to convince one of your siblings you had died and risen from the dead? You would have to literally die and rise from the dead. And James believed fully that Jesus had done that. And so James believes this, and he writes this letter that we've now got today that's just full of practical insight. And at this particular point of the letter, we're jumping into in what we call chapter 3 of the letter. James starts talking here about the power of our words and the power of our tongues. And it's a really great piece. So in James 3, chapter 3, verse 1, the first line is actually a warning to people like me. Here's what he says. He says, "Dear brothers and sisters." He always starts like this, like to get you on his side, because he's just like kind, like, "I love you, brothers and sisters, but I'm about to say something that's going to hurt you. Not many of you should become teachers in the church, for we who teach will be judged more strictly." This is like one of the most terrifying verses in the Bible to me, because I imagine me dying, I go to heaven, but before they let me in, Jesus is like, "Hey, come here." And we sit down on a couch together, which I'm like, this should be cool. It's not, because he pulls up YouTube and all of the times I've spoken in front of people at church, and we have to watch them all. And he's going to be there like, "Why'd you say that? That's stupid." I'm like, "Great. I don't know why I said that. I regret it now. My words. Look at that message." So this is a scary verse. This will keep you up on Saturday nights, trust me. But all James is, he's starting this off acknowledging the weight and the power that words have. And kind of pointing out the reality for us who choose to speak publicly, especially in this church context, that we have influence that we're then responsible for and have to answer for. So he starts there, and then he goes on. And in the next line, he says, "Indeed, we all make many mistakes." Thanks for acknowledging that, James. "For if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect and could also control ourselves in every other way." This is a big claim that James is making here. He's saying, I know the secret to being the perfect human being. Just control your tongue. Just control the words that you vomit out of your mouth all the time, and you will have arrived. You will be the perfect human being. And what he's really saying here is the weight of your words is so heavy that if you can lift that, then you can lift anything else. That the discipline it takes to control the words out of your mouth is so extreme that if you have the discipline for that, you've got the discipline to control yourself in every other area of life. And so he kind of lays this groundwork about our words and our tongues and all this sort of stuff. And then he goes on, he starts painting a word picture for us about the reality of this stuff. And so the next line here, he says, we humans can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. So this little tiny thing can control this beast of a horse. And he continues, he says, "And a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. In the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches." This tiny little part of our body steers our ship. And if our life is a ship and we're trying to sail to the island of living it well, our tongue, our mouth, our words is going to chart the course for us. And he keeps going. So he kind of lays out this word picture, but then he keeps explaining the reality that we're all faced with as humans. And this next line is this next little bit is really intense. He continues on here. He says, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. And this last line is like savage. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. This is like, calm down, James. Like, chill, bro. Like, this is intense. But here's the thing. When you read through this, you know it's true. Because you sometimes, maybe right now today, feel like a burn victim. You feel the scars from the words of other people. And if we shift the lens away from the internal to what's going on around us, like husbands, some of your wives feel, probably my wife feels like a burn victim. And I know enough of you, I know you, and I know that you want your marriages to be lived well. I know I want my marriage to be lived well. But our words are setting our marriage aflame. And not in a like hot in the bedroom good kind of way, like in a bad like forest fire kind of a flame. And it kind of forces you to ask the question, like, why would she want to come home on time? Or want you to come home on time? And like ask yourself, is the garage door sound opening like a positive thing? Or kind of a, I don't know, sort of thing for her? And it probably depends a lot on your words. So husbands, some of your wives feel like burn victims. But wives, like some of your husbands feel like burn victims. And again, I know you and I know you want your marriages to be lived well, but your words are setting your marriage on fire. And again, not in the way your husband wishes, like in the bedroom, like in a bad forest fire kind of way. And so, why would he want to come home on time? And sons and daughters, which is everybody in the room, some of your moms feel like burn victims. Dads, calm down. It's not Father's Day. Know your place. Moms. Kids, sons and daughters, everybody, some of your moms feel like burn victims. And it's really easy to write it off. It's like, she's my mom. She gets it. She's fine. She doesn't need, it's all good. But it's not all good, and she's not all fine. And if you could clear your lens a little bit, you would see the smoke rising off of her from the flames that you have been throwing her way. Some of your moms feel like burn victims. And parents, some of your kids feel like burn victims. And because of your words, they may feel kind of scared or sort of hurt or insecure and unconfident or not good enough. And if you're not careful, they're going to carry those burn wounds with them for the rest of their life. And you know that's true because that was your experience. There's a lot of, if I had to ask like how many burn victims in the room, everybody would have to raise their hands. And then if I asked how many of you have victims who you've burned, everybody would have to raise their hands. And now all of you are feeling like burn victims because of my words and feeling a little bit bad and guilty. Like, this guy's a little mean. But it's not me, it's James. See, it's not me. It's James. And I think what James is trying to do, because he's talking to me too, I think what James is trying to do is give us a little bit of tough love here. He's pointing out what we know deep down to be true, but we kind of, as humans, we try to suppress it. And in our humanity and in our brokenness, we make excuses for it. We all do it. And we've all got our own, like I inherited an anger problem, or, it's my own struggles, or I'm tired, work all day, I slave away, and then this, I was drunk, like whatever your excuses are, we all make excuses. And then the reality is we're like, James, help us out a little bit. What do we do? Because James is the king of practical advice. 1, 2, 3, here's what you do to make this better. But he keeps going. So he's like, hey, your mouth is like from hell. Plus, people can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish. But no one can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. So he's like, we're hoping, give us some like burn cream, James, help us out. And he's like, putting the flamethrower on tin, blasting it at us still. And he's like, you can put all the beasts of the world, all the animals in cages and behind glass and, on your exotic animal Instagram pages and all, you can do all of that, but you cannot tame your tongue. You can't cage your words. And again, he's like, as if the fire and brimstone of the previous line wasn't enough. He's like, if the fire doesn't kill you, then the deadly poison will, seeping into your bloodstream. And so it's like, thanks, James. Appreciate it. And some of you are probably like, thanks, Life Church. Like, real encouraging Mother's Day you got there. That's great. Can't wait for next year. And like, we're going somewhere else next year for sure. And here's what's funny. James isn't done. He goes on in the next line here. And he says, sometimes your tongue, praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. This is one of those passages of Scripture that's like, I like to call it a church people slam, where the Bible is like punching church people right in the face, and they pretend to ignore it, but it's what it's doing. And I'm a church people, so I can say this. He's saying here, hey, all you church people, you go to church and you praise God and you're a good father and all that, you're saying all this and that's great, but then you leave and you're mean and unkind and burning this people that God loves the most, that he made in his image. And he's basically saying something's not adding up. And he says, so because you do this, his next line, he says this, that blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. He's like, guys, this isn't adding up here. And he goes on, he says, in the next line, he says, does a spring of water bubble out with both fresh and bitter water? Does a fig tree produce olives or a grapevine produce figs? No, and you can't draw fresh water from a salty spring. James is like, okay, we know that our words are powerful and they can cause damage. We're on the same page there. But it's even worse than that, he's saying. Because what he's saying here is there's literally nothing in all of nature like it. There is nothing, because you can predict what's going to happen in nature. Like, you know where the fresh water is and where the salt water is. You know where oranges are going to come from. And, you know that you should stay away from like lions and tigers and bears and all of that stuff. So you get the way all that works. But he's saying, but your mouth, your tongue, your words, you never know what's coming. It's unpredictable. It's why there's moments where you're talking and you're like, what am I saying and why am I saying it? Or someone else that's been nice to you, you've had a good relationship and you feel positive about them, but then they say something to you and it's like, who are you? And James is acknowledging that reality, that your tongue is like nothing else. And it's kind of like, at this point, okay, James, I get it. I agree. I can acknowledge I stink. Like, okay, fine. But what do I do now? Because again, up until here, James always gives input and advice. Like, here's how you should handle this. Here's what you should do to be better at this particular thing. But this is the last thing James says here. And then he veers off into another subject. This is the last little bit of information. Go back a slide there, Gil. This is the last bit of information here that James gives us. And then he just totally changes subjects and moves on to something else. He's like, hey, just so you know, your tongue is basically the devil. There's nothing else like it in the world. You can't do anything about it. And then he moves on to the next thing. And we're there when he's saying all that, leaning in for but there's hope. Except that James doesn't really give us any here. And we're like, help! James, like, come on, dude. You got to, give us something here. Instead of I've fallen, I can't get up. It's like, I'm talking and I can't shut up. James, help me. What do I do? And he just goes on to the next subject. And I was reading through, knowing what we're going to talk about, and I was like, this is going to be a weird talk, a weird message. I don't know where I'm going to. But I kind of have a feeling about what James is doing here. I think, and bear with me because I'm going to say this and you're going to be confused, but we'll explain. I think James is pulling a middle school sex ed, is what he's doing here. And I'll explain. I don't know whose idea it was to put a parent's job in the hands of the public school, but somebody did. And so in 8th grade, I have vivid memories of sitting in 8th grade health class. And we the week before, we'd been learning about nutrition labels and how to read a candy bar and know what you're really eating. And hey, yeah, it looks okay, but it's 5 servings in this one little thing. All that sort of stuff is what they were teaching us. Then we walk into class, unsuspecting 8th graders. Everything seems fine. And they begin explaining STDs. And I don't know if they still do this, but they showed pictures and stuff. And just to prove it, I brought a slideshow. I'm just kidding. Don't Google that. But they would explain, seriously though, they explained all of this stuff, all of the horrible potential side effects that come along with sex when it's misused. And they showed this one picture. We won't talk about it. You're going to send more emails to Monty, and I won't get to talk again. But I remember they explain all this stuff, show us all this stuff, and me being the impressionable 8th grader that I was, walk out of that classroom, and it was the last period of the day, so I had to go to football practice, and I just remember the walk from health class to the locker room to change, just feeling contaminated and confused and concerned for my parents, because how did I come into being, I was just, it was bad. But do you know what they were trying, and maybe they didn't do it the right way, but you know what they were trying to do? They were attempting to plant deeply in our minds so we would never forget, and I've never forgotten, deeply in our minds that, hey, sex can be this great positive thing, but there is the potential, if you're not careful, there is this potential for unbelievable pain, emotional, but also literal, as they showed us. There is this potential for horrible side effects if you're not careful. This thing can be so positive, but can be so negative if you misuse it. And it can cause you so much heartache and take you down horrible roads if you don't take seriously your responsibility to steward and control yourself. And I think what James is doing here is really similar. And he's acknowledging throughout this whole passage, hey, you've got this gift, really, that is your tongue, and you can do so much good stuff with it, and it can produce fresh water and all this different stuff, but if you misuse and abuse this, you are going to put yourself into a bad spot. And I think we probably need to review this concept that James is teaching us about here daily, if not hourly. And it all comes down to your words can help you live it well. And they've got so much. Gil has been dying to put this on the screen. It's so important. Your words can help you live it well. They can build relationships and open doors for you and get you jobs and all kinds of stuff. Everything you need in life, you can start accomplishing with your words. But, as James pointed out, your words can destroy your potential to live it well. Every moment of every day, you're walking around with this loaded weapon, this flamethrower that you could use well, and could build up, but it can destroy everything with this little piece, this tiny part of your body called your tongue. You have the potential, James is saying, to burn those closest to you with nothing but the fire of your words. And you know this. Your potential to live it well has a lot to do with the relationships around you. And if they're all on fire, good luck. And so my guess is the most practical we can get with this whole thing that James has laid out for us, the most practical next step for most of us is getting really prepared and comfortable with the idea of saying, I'm sorry. And probably for every single one of us, myself included, the easiest next step to get us closer to living it well would be to go to your burn victims, maybe the one sitting right next to you right now, probably on either side of you if you're really unlucky. Like, go to your burn victims and say, I am sorry. And not one of those, I'm sorry, but what you got to understand is, no. Because if you use but in an apology, everything before the but becomes irrelevant. So it's, I'm sorry. And then you start saying the prayer stuck in my head, which is basically, God, help me to control my tongue. Because what I'm sure you've discovered through this series, if you've been with us, is that if we're really going to live it well, and hopefully as you've discovered today, if you're going to use your tongue to live it well, you're not going to be able to do it on your own. And so you've got to find this place where you're connecting with God and He's helping you see when you're starting to singe the people around you, and He opens your eyes and you back up and press pause and say, I am sorry. And here's what's going to happen. A lot of you feel like, if I go apologize to the person sitting next to me now, like, okay, it's Mother's Day. I feel like I'm sitting next to my mom. I know I should probably apologize for some things, but if I do it now, she's going to know I'm only doing it because Grayson told me to do it, and I'm not that kind of guy. But here's the thing. I've now called you on that, so if you don't apologize now, you're in an even worse shape than you were before. So my input would be, go find your burn victim, say I am sorry, and then prepare yourself to be pressing pause, stopping yourself, and saying I'm sorry again to the same people over and over and over again. And then begin filling your mind with different words that are going to bring life and joy to people, not words that are going to tear them down and destroy them. In fact, we're going to sing this song, and this has kind of been the anthem of this series, this Live It Well series, and the song's called Live It Well, and there's this line where it talks about some of my words are going to come out right, and some of them are going to come out wrong. But this constant pursuit of living it well, and that God is in the middle of that. And so what we're going to do here in closing is, if everybody would just stand up real quick. Even if you're like, I don't like standing, it's okay. Everybody stand up. I'm not going to make you make a fool of yourself or anything at all. We're going to sing this song, and each of us, whatever all these words we're about to say need to mean in your own heart and your own life, open yourself up to that. And use this as an opportunity to start filling your mind with some other words that are going to be life-giving and life-bringing instead of burning the people closest to you. So as we sing this, some of you are going to want to sing it out as loud as you can. Some of you are just going to want to process. Just process. There's no judgment how you want to digest this. But open your mind, heart a little bit to what the words of this song are going to say. And then after that, we'll celebrate you moms a little bit. So they're going to roll with it. You guys enjoy.
Of my lungs, take me broken and make me one, break the silence and make it a song. Life is short, I wanna live it well, one life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well, and you're the one I'm living for. Waking on my soul, every breath that you take is a miracle. Life is short, I wanna live it well. Yeah, I wanna sing with all my heart a lifelong song. Even if some notes come out right and some come out wrong. 'Cause I can't take none of that through the door. Yeah, I'm living for more than just a funeral. I wanna burn brighter than the dawn. Life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well. And you're the one I'm living for.
Mother's Day to all you beautiful moms. You all are amazing. At this time, I'm going to ask the moms to stay standing. Everybody else can take a seat. We're going to take some moments to honor you. We're going to give honor where honor is due. Happy Mother's Day. We love you so much. If you are around your mom or around a mom, why don't you stretch your hands towards them? We're going to pray for all of you beautiful moms right now. And if you are wanting to be a mom and you've been in that struggle, I want you to take a stand as well. Stand up. We're going to pray for you as well. God, I thank you so much for every single mom that is in this room this morning, God. I thank you, Jesus, that you see their life, God, that you love them, God, that you give them grace and strength, God, when they feel weak, God. Lord, I thank you that you have called them to be moms, God. I thank you that you have called them to raise up their kids, God. And Lord, I pray that you will help them, God, in every area of their lives, God. I pray for any mom that is here this morning feeling a little bit weak, God, or doubting herself. God, I pray that she will be reminded that you have called her, God, for such a time as this, God. Lord, I pray that when we feel discouraged, that we will remember and be encouraged in you, God, that we will know that we can do all things through you, God. And I pray that you will continue to give us the strength to carry on, God, to give us the strength to love on our kids, God. And I love you, God, and we love you this morning, and we honor every single mom, God. I thank you for what you're doing in their lives, God, but I thank you that their story is still writing itself, God. We love you so much. In your name we pray. Amen.